Hey Drew, how are you?
Hi, John. Doing well, thanks. What's on your mind?
Well, CE credits are on my mind, Drew. It's continuing education for CFP professionals. I passed the exam, the CFP exam, back in March 2025, and my first batch of CE credits are due at the end of July, so that's coming up soon, as the at the time we're recording this. So that's been on my mind, but also in thinking about that, I just wanted to kind of discuss our two unique experiences with studying for the CFP exam. I believe you took yours about 26 years ago. I took mine last year, so I know things have changed over the nearly 3 decades between the two exams. So I just want to discuss our experiences, and I think it might be helpful for prospective advisors who want to become a CFP professional, or even advisors who've taken the test and maybe have failed, just to get a different perspective on study habits and what worked for us and what might not, or work for us,
Yeah.
what might work for them, so on and so forth. So, Drew, what was your experience about 26 years ago studying for
Yeah.
the CFP exam?
Well, remarkably, John, that was before cell phones. Can you believe it? And also, it meant like there were no online classes. We did have the internet back then, but back in that day, it was dial-up phone by modem. So you spent a lot of time waiting back in the day. So no, when I studied, it was just paper binders. I had a string of 6-inch paper binders on the shelf, and I just slogged through them binder by binder. It was heavy slogging, especially like reading through stuff is not my learning style. I do much better with conversation and listening. And also, like, to complicate my personal matter, I had two kids while I was studying. Beth and I moved into a house. My dad was going through cancer treatments. I had a lot going on. And so if you don't know anything about the CFP exam, if you're listening, after you sit through the classwork, you sit for a comprehensive exam at the end. And back in the day, 26 years ago, it was a day and a half long test. I had to drive into Chicago to take it. It was proctored. It was brutal. And also, what added to the brutality of it is when you finished, it took them like 6 weeks to grade it at that time. So you didn't know if you passed or failed. And then when they did notify you, it was just a little envelope sent to you USPS with some onion paper inside, and all it didn't give you a grade, didn't tell you what you did good or bad. It just said pass or fail. And I remember looking at the envelope with Beth and with a lot of fear, opening that envelope. And I was like, if I don't pass, I am not taking this thing again. I'm choosing another profession. I'll open up a bait shop and give fishing advice. So by the grace of God, I passed, and it's been a fantastic profession. I can't imagine doing anything else. Being part of people's lives and helping them, um, make goals and determine what they want to do with their lives. There's like nothing more important. It's part ministry and part profession, and I love it. So yeah, John, you didn't pass 26 years ago. How was your experience?
Yeah, a lot different. So I joined SAS April 2021. First thing that I studied for and passed was the Series 65 exam. And
Yeah.
then after that, we already had conversations before, during, and after that. The next step would be to go for the CFP exam to start that process. So took a few months off in between the Series 65 passing and starting the CFP to catch up on things that I needed to catch up on after setting some time aside to study for that. And I remember buying the materials. It was unlike your experience online. So College for Financial Planning, Kaplan, they have a live study option. They have a self-study option. So I took the self-study option and made the wrong decision to Google up how difficult is the CFP exam. I remember the first article I looked up, it said, take whatever most difficult exam you've ever taken in your life and multiply that by like 10, some number like that. I remember sleeping very poorly that night thinking, what have I signed up for? Am I capable of doing this? Is this possible for me? Also knowing that I've at the time was having increasing responsibilities here at SAS, at my local church. and elsewhere, personal life, um, will I have the time for this? And what I learned early on was Kaplan's courses were very much suited to my learning style because there was a lot of review questions. You would read a certain portion. For me, reading is not my learning style, like you had mentioned. Um, so I'd probably forget 95% of what I read. Then I would get to the review questions, put that into practice, and I could go back with what I read. Okay, this is starting to make sense, so on and so forth. So um, I learned the review questions. That's really was my bread and butter. That's what helped me learn. And the first course that was pretty easy. Once I got to the insurance course, the second one that was a little bit more difficult. And throughout all the 7 courses, I believe that Kaplan had provided, including the capstone at the end, finding the time was the most difficult part for me. So towards the end, when I passed the courses, um, I would need to take a little bit more time to catch up on things that I had missed out on. From going one course to the other, I would use all the extensions, that they offered. But usually towards the end, when I got to near the end of a course, I would have to dedicate a lot more time those weeks to prepare to take the exam. And that's kind of how my experience with the CFP exam itself went, where I studied and really I felt like not that I wasted time, but reading through the material again, because I took a review course through Kaplan, that was not helpful for me. Once I learned that my best learning style was questions and just repetition, questions, questions, questions. Once I got to that, it made it a little bit more easier. I was picking up more. I was doing better on the questions that I took. And as I got close to the test, I'm like, I need to dedicate specific time where I don't have all the emails popping up, so on and so forth. So I would bring my work laptop to the library. I would have it there just in case something big came up. But then I would just open up my old Chromebook from 2017 that works perfectly, defies expectations, and I would just go question after question after question after question. And that was super helpful for me. So by the time I sat at the exam that I ended up passing, there was a lot that I remembered, and I was a little bit more confident at that time that at the end it would be a passing grade. But you still never know until you get to that final screen. And unlike your experience where you get something mailed to you 6 weeks later, mine was once I finish and I click a certain button, the next 6 months of my life is already played out for me. Will I be studying these next 6 months as I wait for the next test to be available? Or will I be able to take my time and use it elsewhere? And I remember taking just a couple of moments before I clicked next. And once I did and got that passing grade, I was extremely relieved. One of the pieces of advice you gave me early on is pass this exam before you have a family, before you get married, before you have kids. So I was thankful that I took that advice and I was able to pass it a few months before I got married last June. So thanks for the advice, Ruth. Thanks for the support throughout it. And any thoughts comparing and contrasting our two experiences?
No, that's very good. That was good advice I gave you, by the way.
Yes, it was.
Having a family and going to any school is kind of like family abuse. So I'm glad you passed it. That's good. Um, yeah, no, congratulations. You have done a lot in the last year. CFP, got married, and a child. So that's a high on the stress meter. So
Yes.
and the
Well, appreciate it,
satisfaction
Drew.
meter. Yeah. All right.
It certainly is. I appreciate it, Drew. Congrats on 26 years of being a CFP. Looking forward to when you hit that 30 mark.
Thank you, John.